As a film nerd, I like to seasonally watch movies, so if there's leaves on the ground and jack-o'-lanterns are being carved, best believe I'm gonna have some horror classics in rotation. And one horror film that always gets a spin around this time of year is Ridley Scott's iconic film, Alien. I know horror films are typically fairly divisive, but Alien is a movie that even many of my anti-horror film friends enjoy. And I believe it's largely due to the naturally intriguing and thrilling mystery that is its narrative. Despite literally being titled Alien, I actually think that the humanoid characters would provide a lot of the mystery for this film. First off, if you could somehow watch this film with no previous knowledge, it'd probably be a real struggle to pin down who the main character is for a good chunk of the runtime. Dallas appears to be the leader of the group and in charge, and while he does come off like a classic and stoic 70s action character, who could be the lead, his lack of screen time would seem to contradict with him being the main character. For a short while, Kane becomes the center of attention as he's the one to be attacked by the facehugger, so with the reveal that he survived his encounter with an alien, it seemed as if he might become the character at the center of the narrative. But this doesn't really play out either, as the baby xenomorph promptly busts out of his chest, leaving him very dead. And even after Dallas's death at the hands of the xenomorph, it's still not 100% clear who between Ripley and Parker would end up being the final survivor. I think this game of musical chairs of sorts, as the main protagonist's baton is passed from character to character, builds a ton of suspense, as it truly feels like everyone is expendable and could be next to die. Ash also adds to this intrigue, as the film slowly establishes him as being a little bit different than everyone else. Through Ash blatantly ignoring protocols to let Kane back onto the ship with an alien literally attached to his face, we as the audience begin to question his motivations a bit. And his questionable motivations are only made more ambiguous when he discusses their situation and the alien with Dallas, as it appears he almost has a weird admiration and respect for this bizarre parasite of a creature, though the film does establish that Ash is the head of the science department, which makes his fascination semi-understandable, but makes him suspect nonetheless. Ash's sus behavior, while not being 100% outright antagonistic, makes the reveal of him as an android a phenomenal twist. It's one of those twists where you're not surprised that something was up with the character, but you probably couldn't quite put your finger on what exactly it was until the reveal. And after our remaining human characters manage to best Ash in a fight, they reconnect him for just long enough to receive some eerie remarks before Ash is completely disintegrated by Parker's flamethrower. You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Perfect organism. Its structural perfection is only matched by its hostility. I admire its purity, survival, unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality. I can't lie to you about your chances, but you do have my sympathies. The scene I just paraphrased is truly unnerving and fear-inducing, in part to how cold the dialogue is and due to Ash's robotic delivery. It's a masterclass in acting and filmmaking that really lays out the near zero odds that any of the human characters are going to survive this film, which in turn makes Ripley's ultimate triumph at the end of the film much more satisfying and thrilling. And this gets to the classic idea of less is more when it comes to horror films. This is the idea that whatever the monster of a horror film is should be seen as little as possible, because us as humans will piece together what happens off screen, and whatever horrors our brain can think up will almost always be greater than what can be displayed on screen. In this scene, and throughout the film, we get very few moments of actually being able to see the xenomorph, and this is in part what makes it so terrifying. Every time we do see it, it looks completely different, as if it's evolving hour to hour, and the way Ash describes it here makes it apparent that it has only one objective: survive. In a sense, that is what the human characters are also doing once the xenomorph bursts its way out of Kane. They're simply trying to survive. In this film, for all of its complexities, fascinating dialogue, and mysterious characters, becomes a very simple game of who will survive. And the idea of fighting for your survival against a perfect organism built to do anything in order to thrive is terrifying. In fact, I believe the thought of this idea is more terrifying than the actual appearance of the xenomorph. Once it becomes pretty clear that Ripley is our main protagonist, we get to see her in action, and while perhaps not a perfect organism, she is badass. She thinks of plans on the fly, and despite the immense pressure and stakes of her situation, she always keeps a calm demeanor on the outside at least. The final sequence of the film where she's in the escape pod with the xenomorph is bone-chillingly claustrophobic. Each second that passes as she's putting on her spacesuit feels like an eternity, as we as an audience are just waiting for the xenomorph to make its move. And when she finally manages to blast the alien into space, it's such a badass moment and triumph. Not just because of the intelligence and grit she displayed while doing it, but also because of how well the rest of the film established the alien's threat level. All in all, Alien is a fantastic thriller of a horror film and has truly earned its status as a classic of the genre. Despite only having about 2 to 3 jump scares for the entirety of its runtime, it manages to be a chilling and intense experience. Through its well-crafted dialogue, its incredible sound and visual design, and the integral performances of each actor. And it brought us an iconic horror protagonist in Ripley. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Alien and are interested in further explorations of screen stories, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe. And if you feel like I missed anything, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.